I want to talk about that being one Kyler Murray. You know, I mentioned this in my pre-tease, the one where you guys couldn't hear me in the first stream. And I had said I had some conversations last night with other media members, and, I don't like to give out other people and their opinions. If they want to do that, that's on them. So you just have to trust me, which is okay if you don't. Take you for what it's worth. I talked to a couple of media members last night, and this is when the Suns were down in the game. And I just curious. I had some pretty prominent guys next to me. And I said, hey, what do you make of Kyler? And one of them said, well, you got to move on. You just got to move on. It's year 6. Largely, I don't know if I would say I'd move on this year, but I get where people are going with that. Kyler Murray, it's year 6. Next year, it'll be year 7. He's not getting any better. If anything, he regressed at the end of the season. That's a tough pill to swallow, but he regressed at the end of the season. So I decided at halftime, because these conversations took in the first half, let me just look at some of the quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs. And I think it was kind of eye-opening. So you have some of the quarterbacks that are playing this weekend. Justin Herbert, who's obviously a very good player. C.J. Stroud, Russell Wilson, Lamar Jackson, Bo Nix, Jordan Love, Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Baker Mayfield, Sam Darnold, Matthew Stafford. You take a look at some of these quarterbacks, and of course, you have your Patrick Mahomeses, and you have your Lamar Jacksons, and your Josh Allens. But there's also a C.J. Stroud who hasn't been great this year. There's also a Jordan Love who can be a little up and down, spotty at times. Bo Nix, a rookie. Jaden Daniels, a rookie. Baker Mayfield, who at times we still can't make a lot out of. Sam Darnold, who's had a revolution. And Jared Goff. There's only a few superstar quarterbacks in the NFL playoffs. And one of them can't win any games. Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, stars. Lamar Jackson, troubles in the playoffs. So that kind of begs the question, because can Kyler win a Super Bowl? Well, Rex Grossman went to a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy, a couple of years, who we've started to see a little bit regress to the mean. He went to a Super Bowl. Jimmy Garoppolo went to a Super Bowl. So this idea that Kyler Murray isn't as good as some of those quarterbacks, Kyler's as good as Brock Purdy, at least talent-wise. If you stuck Kyler Murray on the San Francisco 49ers with all those weapons, you'd probably take the ceiling with Kyler Murray. And then you look around at some of these quarterbacks. Jalen Hurts a few years ago, very young, he went to a Super Bowl. I don't know if Kyler Murray can win a Super Bowl, but there is a lot of evidence to show he can get to a Super Bowl. And then at that point, who knows? A flag turns a game another direction. A team comes out kind of hobbled. You take advantage of them. You win that game. So what's the alternative to Kyler? Well, have you seen the Giants? Have you seen the Raiders? You really want to run it out there with Tommy DeVito and Aiden O'Connell? Listen, I have my gripes with Kyler. Consistency is way too up and down. In later games of the season, he has crumbled. And call it what it is. He has never showed up in the biggest moments, in the biggest games, when the team needs him the most. And those are all red flags. But to be fair, Kyler has never had what those other quarterbacks have had going into a Super Bowl. Brock Purdy had a stacked roster. Jimmy Garoppolo had a stacked roster. This offseason, you have the potential to really bolster up this team, and I believe you have to do that. Go get another wide receiver. Go pay T. Higgins if you want. You're not paying Jamar Chase. I'm sorry. Go get T. Higgins if you want. You're not paying Marvin Harrison Jr. Seems like overkill, but it also felt like overkill to have Debo, Brandon Ayuk, Kyle Juszczyk, Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, Trent Williams. Go get T. Higgins. Go spend the money. Give him $30 million a year. Whatever. You're not paying Marvin Harrison Jr. And when it's time to pay Marvin, T. Higgins will be long gone. Load up this team. The only way you can get to a Super Bowl with Kyler is if you load up the offense. That means go get a guy like T. Higgins. That means bolster in the interior offensive line with guys like Trey Smith, the Chiefs' free agent guard. That's the plan for Kyler. Can he win a Super Bowl? I don't know. Can he get you to one? There are plenty evidence in history that yes, he can. That being one of Jimmy Garoppolo not too long ago and Brock Purdy just a year ago. So for anyone that wants to move off of Kyler, can I just ask you, what's your alternative? I guess you could bottom out, but who are you tanking for next year? I know how much you like Arch Manning, but he hasn't played a meaningful game in college football yet. And you want to draft him number 1 overall? We just have to be fair. Kyler Murray right now might not be the best choice if you were just picking out of all the quarterbacks in the NFL. But right now, he's your only choice. Because it's either him or Aiden O'Connell. It's either him or Tommy DeVito. And it doesn't matter what you think about those two quarterbacks. They'll never be Super Bowl appearing quarterbacks. That's just the issue. So, when I was talking to some people last night, again, prominent media members, and they said that, I was like, you can't move off of him. What would make you want to do that? And, there's this idea as well. I actually want to mention this. Sometimes I'll recognize the chat. It's kind of hard for me to do so while doing the show. But, Ivan in the chat was just talking about, tanking for Trevor Lawrence. Years ago, it was tank for Trevor, right? And I thought that I think that's a really good point, Ivan. It was tank for Trevor Lawrence, and I was there too. Not with Kyler, but I thought Trevor Lawrence was going to be a generational talent. And he did play in big games. He won a national championship. And then what happened? In the NFL, he's been largely irrelevant. So it's hard to believe you're going to get better than Kyler, even in the short term. Unless some quarterback really pops out next year, which does happen, I don't know what you're doing. And also, to do the tanking, you actually have to do the tanking. You don't just get the number 1 overall pick because you forfeit your games. Look at the Raiders. They won like their last 3 games of the season or something ridiculous. The Giants won a meaningless game a couple of weeks ago, and it cost them Cam Ward, and it cost them Shedeur Sanders. Be careful about just pushing Kyler Murray out the door without having a succession plan. Be careful because we've seen very recently what you can do with guys who have the ceiling of Kyler Murray, which might not be the highest, but it is a ceiling. Brock Purdy, Super Bowl appearance. Jimmy Garoppolo, Super Bowl appearance. So maybe don't push Kyler out the door quite yet. Do what you can do this offseason. Build in the interior line. I really like Trey Smith from the Chiefs. Go get a T. Higgins. Spend the money. And then as well, defensively, Hassan Reddick, Josh Sweat. Elevate that defense. 3rd year of Jonathan Gannon. It can be done. Now, I'm not saying it's likely, but it can be done. If I told you 3 years ago Jared Goff would be the number 1 seed in the NFC, you would have thought I was crazy. If I would have told you that Bo Nix 12 months ago was going to be in the playoffs, you'd think I was crazy. If I told you Jaden Daniels was going to take a Washington Commanders team that has been garbage for years to the playoffs in his first season, you would have thought I was crazy. Support Kyler Murray. Support Kyler. You can either be all in or all out. You can't be in the middle. which means you can't go this year and draft a quarterback in the first and second rounds. Sure, in the later rounds, maybe. But this is the year to fully support Kyler offensively, defensively, in the interior line, and it shows you that quarterbacks, you don't need to be Josh Allen to get to a Super Bowl. Trent Dilfer did it. Brock Purdy did it. Rex Grossman did it. Jimmy Garoppolo did it. Jared Goff might do it this year. And does anyone really have belief in Jared Goff still? So, that's where I would land on that.